Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth Table. I'm Paul Epton, here, and it is Season 2, Episode 4. And my guest, JP Santanato, is an environmentalist, student, journalist, technician, historian, musician like myself, expat in Toronto, and living in Canada with Ukrainians, civil and military support on a basis. We are recording live in Ukraine, so we're really there, and we're going to talk to JP. Great. Let's see if I can. Thank you all for joining me. Today is a very special live stream, right in the heart of Ukraine, and my guest today is going to share his experiences of what it's like there on a firsthand basis. And I really appreciate. Thank you for coming on, JP. Welcome to the Truth Table.
Thank you, Paul. How are you today? I'm glad to be on your show. And I'm ready and willing to talk about most subjects in pertaining to our time in Ukraine with my nonprofit organization, pfiukraine.org, registered in Ontario in 2017 for environmental and humanitarian causes, and other tangential subjects matter, including my reasons for coming here, as well as
Yeah.
my experiences leading up to this.
Yeah. So how did it all begin? Like, what compelled you to get involved with Ukraine and humanitarian efforts?
Well, that's a really deep question. And I think we better proceed maybe, chronologically, sort of sequentially, because I've been asked this sort of question many times, and I've asked it of myself a number of times. And, I really must return to some of my earliest memories as a child, because those are very impactful memories for most people, and they define our lives as we go on. And I'm about 44 years old now, so I've got this pretty entrenched sort of philosophical and ethical mindset that I developed as a youth in the West End of Toronto, North York, Canada. Toronto basically absorbed my town, North York. So, but it was really disillusioning and eye opening. Growing up in our world, experiencing all kinds of things in my hometown, and watching the news with my parents and family members. I grew up in a Catholic and sort of Christian household, and I one of my first memories was actually traumatic to me. Um, I experienced death as an infant, to be honest, and so that really helped formulate my life. Um, and I didn't really remember the experience for most of my life. In fact, my sibling smothered me during a hockey game. She was watching a hockey game,
Oh
and
my God, man!
yeah,
Sorry to
and
stop you, but
sorry.
we have so much in common. I just
Oh, really?
almost everything. My sibling tried to smother me when I lived in Toronto when I was younger. I think it was 1920. It's like, wow. like everything, and you're a musician.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was raised Catholic. I mean, oh my God, like we're like two peas in a pod. And
So,
yeah, I think my sister would still smother me if she could.
yeah.
Sorry, please continue.
Well, it's a fascinating story. I'd be interested to hear yours too. Because life is something that we all experience, and death as well. So I've really um, come
Yeah.
to become acquainted with some of the hazards of our experience in this realm. Um, and that's just something that not everyone gets to experience. A lot of people sit back and enjoy life, and that's great. I wish I could afford that, but then I've decided to invest my energy and resources towards leaving a more sustainable world for our offspring and
Well,
family.
helping your fellow man is very noble. And
Mhm.
from the onset, I have to say, because I represent the truth table, so I'm going to just state this, that I don't support any side of any war. I support mankind, because they are the victims. The Ukrainians are the victims. The Russians are the victims. You know, to me, the bomb is evil. I hate the sin. You know, I don't hate the sinner. I hate the sin. And people's lives are being taken for no reason. It's really pointless. All these wars have been for the Rothschild banking cartel. That should get me shut down on Facebook.
Yes.
but but you have a very unique perspective because you're actually there in real time, and you are being noble. You are doing what you can to help, and that's honorable. That's a righteous cause, and I, that's why I wanted you on the show so badly, because you know people like you need need to be known about, to give other people hope. You see, you give other people hope that there's good people in this world, and that's why you're here, and that's why your cause is so important, because it needs to be known by others, so others can be motivated to participate and try to ending all these wars and these pointless deaths. So tell us, you give supplies to the military and civilians.
Yeah.
So is it food that you give, and medicine, and or is it weapons? Like what is it that you?
I try to do everything that I possibly can, and I actually visited both countries in 2016 with my former Canadian, Ukrainian, Russian speaking spouse, common law spouse.
Mhm.
And I've sort of immersed in the language and the culture here for decades. In fact, I've always found affinity to Eastern European women, or and it's a beautiful culture, language, both of them. But I've really decided, for me, that Ukraine is obviously on the defense here, and I tend to sway heavily towards
The
the the
underdog.
the people that are being slaughtered, the civilians, is
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I defended civilians in other areas, cities, countries, regions of the world that have suffered at the hands of oppression. Gaza, for example, long before my visiting Ukraine, I already supported Palestinians. In word, and I I would like to go there, but you can't even take a ship there. We're seeing the flotillas trying, and I was actually invited to the flotilla, but
Mm.
I had to decline because of my current position being focused here. But Ukraine for me is a very valiant, noble culture of ancient origin. Historically prior to the city-state of Muscovy, which you
Mhm.
know, if we look at it, it's subjugating vast swathes of Asia, and those people are being sent to die for ideology of imperialism in Ukraine. And I'm very proud to say that our defense of Ukraine is successful enough to say that we still exist. The ratio in particular zones, areas like Pokrovsk, for example, which is a flashpoint right now, and everyone's paying attention to.
Hmm.
Ratio of Russians to Ukrainians is about 8 to 1. So we have to ask, like, is that a victory for Russia to move at a less than a snail's pace, according to some other authors? If Russia moves at a snail's pace in this imperial, conquest mission, they call it a special military operation. But we know it's a war. We know it's terrorism. If they stopped, the war would stop immediately, right? If
Hmm.
they went back home, the war would stop immediately. But we have to ask ourselves, to what degree would one defend themselves and their loved ones? I would defend myself and my loved ones until it kills me.
Hmm.
And I think
See,
that Ukraine,
yeah, I,
that
I, I,
Ukraine
I blame NATO for this because they promised Gorbachev long ago that they wouldn't, add countries to its, power, and Ukraine is right there. They're just literally provoking a fight by doing that. Obama started that 2014, and they started, killing pro-Russian candidates in the election. And there's no election now, so you've got a
there,
really dictatorship happening, right?
I want to respond to those sort of
Sure.
talking points actually because I
Yeah.
encounter them a lot. There's a lot
Hmm.
of Kremlin infiltration in our media that spreads these talking points, and
Oh
and
yeah.
I don't fault people for learning them, but the
Yep.
NATO never agreed not to expand. In fact, we wouldn't need NATO if there wasn't the threat of a Russian imperialist, conquest of Europe that's beginning in Ukraine. But I think we should start chronologically as to why I developed this, you know, um, intention of coming here and helping, because there's
Hmm.
so many reasons. We could talk for days about this, and I don't know where to start. But I began being an environmentalist humanitarian as
Hmm.
a child. One of my first memories, not just the death and criminal negligence resulting in death, is what I actually call it, um, and it's defined in the criminal code. So I've been pushing my siblings for justice for a long time, because they won't acknowledge this occurrence, and others. But I once witnessed a pair of vehicles discarded in the Humber River, where I grew up at Weston Road and Shepherd, on a stroll as a toddler with my father.
Hmm.
And to me, that was really, I mean, it's out of place today. But imagine in the early 80s, it would have been more people would have probably ignored it more. We didn't have paved paths along our routes and bike paths. Now those are beautifully paved and trimmed and cleared paths. But back in the 80s, there was less. We had less of a budget. There was the deficit. There was bad political. There was corruption. There was environmental devastation, like less than today. And so I really developed my environmentalist badge when I first saw this discardation, the two cars discarded in the Humber River. And it only took me years to piece it together why those cars were still there. But I became sort of dis, disillusioned in this observation as a child and a teenager. And I realized that it's also, we live in a very neglectful world,
Yeah.
where there's a lack of checks and balances. And that happens because people don't stick up for our other people. We don't protest,
Yes.
and we don't respond in the right way, and we're not
Mm.
proactive enough. And
No.
so, yeah,
No. And bombs are evil. Just face it.
I
You,
agree.
you
I
don't use a
agree.
bomb to kill one person. It's just
Yeah.
wrong. It's evil. I conform to the Ten Commandments. Don't murder. So I'm a do no harm person. That's why I refuse to pick a side. I don't care who the bad guy or the good guy is. The victims are the innocent civilians.
Yes.
They had nothing to do with this.
Yes.
So my
Well,
heart breaks over it.
the civilians in Ukraine are being targeted far more than Russian civilians, and I can explain that in detail because first of all, we don't have the resources to even expend on targeting civilians in Russia. We don't have the weapons quantity. They have
Right.
the personnel quantity, but and that's said to be a quality in itself. And
Hmm.
probably that's the reason we're still experiencing this war, because they keep sending people to die in this meat grinder with poorly equipped weapons and supplies. And so Ukraine is being, I think, very effective in our defense by fixating the enemy in sectors like Prokhorovsk and when we were in Kursk, and preventing them from, having the control of the battlescape. And I'm not really, I don't have a military background. In fact, before I left Canada, I'd never
Hmm.
discharged a firearm. I thought, American fighter jets were cool. I used to make like those airplanes, those plastic
Oh yeah.
jets. I
Hmm.
loved American fighter jets. But that came from my grandfather, who actually worked on the Avro Arrow. My grandfather worked in at Hawker in Great
Hmm.
Britain during World War II. And then when my family immigrated to Canada, he began working at the Avro Arrow production as a tool and die maker. So he was always sort of getting me engaged in flight, and aerodynamics was always interesting to me. So I started being fascinated with jets and fighter jets, and the American military always was intriguing to me. But I never got the chance to serve in the Canadian military. In 2004, I applied as a reservist, and I was
Hmm.
honest. And I told them I was misdiagnosed by my family doctor at 12 for depression. And that was a
Oh
misdiagnosis because I wasn't depressed. I was just a victim of Prozac proliferation. Off the
oh
books. I
no.
was prescribed Prozac as a 12-year-old.
Oh my God, our stories are so close. I
And
Yeah, I was misdiagnosed too, and I was put on Ativan, and I ended
yeah,
up hanging myself. And
no. Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
16, and there was no reason for me to be depressed like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I
It was the
stopped,
drugs probably.
and they
Before the drugs, you probably were, you could have. See, there's a lot of biochemistry that people don't really realize, and I do a lot
Mhm,
of online research on amino acids, you
yeah,
know, and your gut health affecting your emotions. So
yeah,
now I take a lot, the right amount of supplements. I know my biochemistry pretty well. In fact, I take piracetam, which is hard to find in Canada now for some reason. But I used to buy it on eBay. Piracetam stimulates your cerebral spinal vascular system,
hmm,
and improves your blood flow to your brain. So that improves concussions. But doctors in Canada told me you can't deal with a concussion. There's nothing we can do for concussions. Well, that was false. You know. So I'm a strong believer that there are remedies, and if there's problems, there's solutions. There's more solutions
I
than
agree,
problems. You can
I
find the
agree.
solution. Part of the
Yep,
problem is doctors are a business, even in
but
Canada.
they're also trained. The books that they learn from in school are
Yeah,
pharmaceutical books. So
yeah,
they're not taught cures. They're taught if you have this, you use this.
yeah,
They just put drugs with symptoms.
yeah.
And they only go after symptoms. They don't cure because there's no money in cures. And that's
Absolutely.
really sad. It should be a crime
Yeah, absolutely.
to put profit in that sort of thing. Even war shouldn't be profit. It should be out of, someone's attacking you and you defend yourself, and you
Well,
try to
that's the
make
thing.
peace.
I agree
And
with you there, and I would like us to see more sovereignty on an individual level. Honestly,
agreed.
worldwide, we would have less dependency and less wars if everyone had their needs met, right? And that
Yeah.
involves energy, obviously food and shelter, but energy is a big thing. We can fix that. Food and
Yeah,
shelter is not
I
possible to
agree.
reach. And if everyone had their own energy source, like solar panels provide, for example, I had a trailer. My organization used to have a trailer that was in an explosive accident. In 2003 January, I was in an explosive propane leak explosion in Toronto, and my mobile office exploded, and I became a flaming projectile. So we lost a lot of assets and equipment, but I really tried to demonstrate, at a vacant lot that was carved up by the Allen Road Expressway, um, a vacant lot there that I called and named Anthropoglen Place. Anthropoglen Place still technically exists because the city of Toronto is letting people name vacant lots now. So I filed an application to rename this vacant lot Anthropogenic Place, and according to the file marshal, the propane leak was due to me being buying the cheapest propane heater on Amazon. Can you imagine?
Wow.
So I spent 2 months in the hospital. I had a premonition, in fact, that this would happen, and I got an insurance policy. In fact, can you imagine? But I missed my first payment, and then the day that I was in hospital, the day that it happened, I received a phone call from the insurance saying that you missed your first payment. You can double pay and still have coverage. I fucking made a payment immediately, buddy. I was
Yeah.
on my phone. I'm like making that payment, and I got 15 grand. But I think that they owe me 100 because I'm never going to get full use of my backhand of my hand, the backhand of my skin, the skin on my back of my hand on both sides, and my
Ouch.
lower back skin. But that's difficult to challenge in court,
Mm,
apparently. So I
yeah.
didn't go for the full. I could probably still get it. I don't know, but it happened, and so I'm trying to demonstrate what I try to do what I say. The world that we want, we have to make it for ourselves at least, or we're hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to be that. I've tried to go. This organization almost got dissolved immediately upon founding because my two co-founders abandoned. So I don't
Mm.
want to leave this kind of devastation in my wake. I want
No,
things
I
to.
wouldn't. I
So
wouldn't
I
either.
yeah, and so that's one reason why I'm here in Ukraine too, because I feel like this is a very critical flashpoint in our world that
Yeah.
my degree of my beliefs can and skills can be very applicable.
Hmm. Kirk, thanks for the stars. I Stars are finally activated on Facebook,
No,
so
stars, yeah.
that's kind of cool.
I don't
Now,
know about
what is
stars.
the pulse of the people around you? Like, are they? Would you say they're pro-war? Do they feel betrayed? Do they trust the government? Zelensky. I mean, like, what is the initial pulse around you? Like the people around you. How do they feel um, about? It's right on there, liberty.
Champion
Yeah,
Liberty. Give me Kharkiv. Yeah, Kharkiv
champion
over
of liberty.
from
Oh, your
Kharkiv.
camera's backwards too. All
Oh,
the letters
sorry.
are backwards. No, that's all
Uh,
right. Mine did that too. I had to switch it back. Um, yeah. So, what is the pulse like? What are you getting from the people from Ukraine?
I actually asked those questions of Ukrainians because I'm curious, and people ask me back home, um, and I can give you a range of answers. Right now, I'm in a rural setting in central Ukraine. That's never really been targeted heavily, and we don't experience the alarms. It's it's very far to this closest town, and I like it this way. But I lived
Yeah.
in Kharkiv. I lived in all the major cities at some point, and I spent most of my time in Kharkiv. But I'll start with the answer that I got from one of my fellow warriors in the military, a woman drone pilot, for example. She has family in Luhansk. She wants her family liberated. She wants her family to have the freedom that we experience in the West.
Yeah.
And my neighbors over here that just treated me to lunch, you know, they they're very friendly, and they want to see Ukraine be free.
Hmm. Me
You know,
too.
and I totally empathize with Ukraine because this is the land of milk and honey and unfulfilled promises.
Hmm.
And it's a shame what's going on, that they've been under this subjugation and exploitation by Muscovy for centuries. Because the truth is that the Kiev Rus were the original Ruthenians. Rurik, Rurik was part of Kiev Rus. So
Hmm.
the Kiev Rus are the founders of Rus, and for Russia to call themselves the Russian is really a slap in the face to Ukraine, and that speaks to the motivation of Ukrainians. Ukrainians are determined to remain in existence, and I
Of
think everyone
course.
else would want the same. That's the problem. Part of the problem is that people are going to fight for their existence.
Yes.
And there's an oppressive, bigoted army out there, terrorist. I call it the largest terrorist group in the world. the largest terrorist country, that is, we call Russia, the Russian Federation, which is a grouping of subjugated communities subjugated by Moscovia, the city state of Moscovia, under another false pretense. Used to be the Soviet Union, the Bolsheviks,
Yes. Under
But
the USSR. Yep. Bolsheviks revolution.
yes, but the
Yeah.
Soviet Union was not, it was not communist because there were oligarchs there too.
Hmm.
We've never really had true communism, in my opinion.
And it's like the United States and Canada with Ukraine and Russia. Like we were neighbors, we were friends. We go back and forth. Some work over here, some of us work over there. It was the same in Ukraine. There was a lot of border crossing. Russian speaking Ukrainians in the east. So it was an open kind of border where people worked on both sides and they crossed over freely until 2014.
Right.
And what was it? When did you arrive in Ukraine?
My
Like what
first
year?
visit was with my former spouse in 2016, but we flew
2016.
in. We went to Moscow, like through Moscow to Belgorod, and
Wow.
then stayed in Belgorod for a couple of weeks, and then we went through Kharkiv to through the largest market in the world at that time in Europe, Baramashova Market. It's totally destroyed now. It's not totally destroyed. It still operates, but Baramashova Market was an enormous, beautiful market that I actually visited in 2016. Through Kharkiv, we came to Poltava, and I lived in Poltava for another 2 3 weeks. And then we
Hmm.
visited Kiev, and that was my first visiting of Ukraine. However, I did sort of immerse in the culture and language in Toronto with my friends and family and ex girlfriends and such. But I've learned that at first I learned Russian. I'll be honest. My first interactions with Russians and Ukrainians was through a Russian woman that I met in Toronto. At a
Hmm.
party, and it sort of spun off from there. I learned each letter through intimate, sort of teachings, and it was exciting. And I really, I learned a lot of the nuances. The swear words were first, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, that happens. Yeah, I have friends like in Belarus. I think it's
Belarus,
Belarus.
yeah, yeah.
Is it called Belarus? Um,
White Russia, Belarus, yeah, right? Belarus, they call it.
Belarus. That's
Yeah.
it. Yes, I have friends in Belarus, and also another friend really close enough. I could just see the map here. I could I could remember.
Well, I'm
Uh,
sure you know a lot of people. Canada is a really connected country. A lot of people come out from all over the world, and there's like 6 degrees of separation. You could know millions of people. I'm sure of it.
yeah, like close to Ukraine. Um, Belarus is very close. I mean, it's a neighbor.
It's adjacent to Ukraine on the north. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's where one of my friends moved there with his wife and
yeah.
and two kids just to get out of Canada because Canada is like
Wow.
not doing good, eh?
I'm
Canada's
hearing
very
things about Canada, yes, and I'm experiencing things about Canada currently. So yes,
it's
we can
very
talk about.
sad
Yes, yes.
because
I hope you.
when we were younger, it was a beautiful, happy country.
Oh
People
yeah.
were happy. I was a happy child, and everyone, all my neighbors were happy, and they were happy to see me, and it was very open and welcoming. Yeah, so my friend was in Romania and Bulgaria, and
Yeah.
I think he's in Austria right now,
Amazing.
and he's been on my show twice, just
Cool.
to kind of give me the pulse of the area, which is what I'm hoping to learn as much as I can from you to get a pulse of what it's like there. I mean, I don't hear any bombs, and that's good.
No,
Not
no, I've distanced myself from the actual fire zone, somewhat. Yeah, but I was at the front line in. I can tell you two locations that I was actually at the front line. My first deployment in life was at a place called Unakivka on the border between Kursk and Sumy Oblast. Well, Kursk is Russia, a Russian Federation, and Sumy is Ukrainian territory. And we were on the border there. And on my first patrol, we were targeted with an ultralight fixed wing drone that flew in on our position but hit a tree. And
Oof.
I was without ammo, honestly. It was my very first patrol. And we were just sort of getting the feel for the guys were basically just getting the feel for me because I was the only foreigner in that unit at the time and probably right now too. Um, and so, I'm sure that they were just trying to get a feel for me, but we were all sort of, learning and, being on patrol. So I didn't have ammunition to shoot at the drone, but other guys shot at it and it came down and hit a tree. So we were all okay. But, having
That's
experienced harm
yeah.
in Canada, various forms of harm were, experienced various forms of harm already in Canada. So
Yep.
I've developed a sense of responsibility and courage that
Yeah.
led me to realize, process logically that I'm going to die one day anyway. I
Hmm.
just want to do my best until it happens. You can't always control it. What you can control are your current actions in this short time frame, this short window of life that we have.
Well,
What
in Canada, they're trying to pass a law that if you post scriptures, you can go to jail.
I can't believe that's happening. I
Can
mean,
you
I've read
actually
about some of
post
the
that?
stuff in
Yeah.
Britain. In Britain, I was reading about that stuff's happening, and I
It's
read about there was
mm,
one incident that I read about where a UK officer, police officer, was being asked the opposite question. Hypothetically, if they had criticized, if they had what was it? If they had said something uh, supportive of Israel's genocide, would they have been arrested? And the officer couldn't respond. I don't know if you saw that video, but there's so much media out there. A lot of tangential connections to the state of Israel are, I believe,
oh,
largely inauthentic to Judaism.
we have a very sick leadership. Like our Carney says, he will arrest Netanyahu if he comes into the country. I
That's
mean,
okay
he's
with
just
me.
asking for Mossad to target us.
He
He's just
should
saying,
he
"Come on
should
over
arrest.
here."
He should arrest any Canadian leader should arrest Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir
Yeah, but
Putin.
it's not him, eh? It's not him. And like he's the puppet, and he's good at being a puppet. But really, he's the banking cartel's guy. Like
Right.
Trump is their guy too.
Yes,
You
he's
know,
totally the swamp monster, claiming not to be.
absolutely. Yes, he
Yeah.
fooled everybody.
Yeah. No, not me, bro. I
But I
called it
mean,
years before. I was like, Trump is going to be a disaster, and I've
yeah,
been saying
me
it for a long
too.
time.
Yeah, me too. And I didn't want to break people's hearts because they were so hopeful that he was going to clean it all up. And he is cleaning it up. But I mean, that's biblical that he cleanses. He cleanses. The little horn cleanses his area. So that's what he's doing. He's bombing the drug boats and he's getting rid of, illegal immigrants. So he's like fulfilling the Bible right at this point, which is probably why they don't want you to quote it. But it breaks my heart that these people, Ukraine and Russia, were friends. They were friends and neighbors, and they were turned into enemies unnaturally. It was unnatural. You know what I mean? That's what breaks my heart. It's like us going to war with America, and Carney's like picking fights and tariff wars and with what are you crazy? You know what I mean?
If you're
There's no
asking for my
negotiating
opinion,
power. It's
I think
ego.
I think Trump
Yeah.
is really the one that's picking the fights, and it's his own people are proving him to be false about that. His tariffs have been struck down. His tariffs
He's,
are currently zero, is what I read.
yeah.
So his
Well, I
threat,
mean,
the threat of economic sabotage upon himself
hmm
isn't really affecting us as much as he thought it would. And it's really Americans pay for those tariffs. All we had to do was find new business partners. We're working better closer with Europe now, and
yeah,
that's great. I think we should open a multinational economic consortia like the
I
European
think
Union.
a good leader will make their country self-sufficient, so they don't
Yes,
need sources from outside. They need to be
yes,
self-sufficient. efficient. Canada should have an oil pipeline going west to east so everyone has access to it. They just do everything worse. They make everything worse. We have incompetence, negligence
Yes.
in the leaderships, and
Yeah,
they seems like the worst people up, run for politics.
I agree. I agree that there's a lot of bad actors that try to. The bad actors are taking up the majority of people trying to get into positions of power. And
Yeah,
it's often that they have people subsidizing them. Like just look at APAC in the United States. It's the perfect
yeah,
example, and it's a
terrible.
it's a foreign lobby. It's a foreign lobby, and their structure is really like questionable, but they somehow that results in all the influence that they have.
But
So
because of their negligence, it inspired the divine masculine men like you that are willing to die for your fellow man. You risk everything just to do something good, and that is so inspirational to me. I mean, even I'm sitting here in my apartment and I still feel like I'm risking my life, with almost every show I do. And that,
uh,
I'm not perfect, but I I know that this is a righteous cause. People need to
I
hear
don't
from
think that
you.
you'll experience anything like that, to be honest, and I pray you don't. But I think more logically that people will approach you with wads of cash to silence you at first. Like, that's
Yes.
why you'll have guys like Tim Pool exist because of this sort of thing. Maybe
Yes.
you'll accept some Kremlin money, for example, like Tim Pool or all these other guys. I don't know, but that's more likely to happen than you getting assassinated, because I actually know. I mean,
I think so too.
I suspect that I know people that have been assassinated by Russia, and they don't, just by being in the media, you're not that kind of target.
Hmm.
You never served in military against, the country, so you probably be okay. I mean, but I
But I
think that
think,
you're more
yeah,
likely to get
I
shot
think,
down.
yeah, I don't have the views. I think the people that support the bad people get the views. They get, unnatural boosting, for
Ah,
pushing the right message. Like if I was a trans, and I would be doing great.
on certain platforms, yeah. Like my Facebook was deleted without any application process in
Really?
2024. Yeah, I posted the cartoon of, that "Don't Tread on Me" flag with the snake.
Wow.
I forget what it's called, but I have posted a version of it with the Marvin Heermeyer, Mearsheimer was his name, I think. The killdozer bulldozer instead of the snake.
Mm.
I posted that on Facebook on my personal profile on March 16th, which was the anniversary of Rachel Corrie's death by bulldozer in Palestine.
Oh yes.
And they
Yes.
deleted my profile without any question. It doesn't exist anymore.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's I understand where you're coming from. Certain platforms have that leaning and
Yep.
bias and
Yep.
funding, and just recently I saw a video. There was a Zionist proponent that claimed, she were actually, it's been published, she worked for Facebook in their, censorship apparatus, and they crush
Mm.
that sort of content, buddy. They crush it in Facebook.
Yep.
Zuckerberg,
And I
man.
don't I don't even think I see. That's why I hate the sin, not the sinner, because I don't even think it's Trump's fault or Zelensky's fault or Putin's fault. I think we've got a military industrial complex run by Zionists that really have the threat of death or destruction over these people to make things happen. In 2002, they took over the Pentagon, Mossad, or the
Yeah,
Israeli intelligence. So they run everything. They run it all. They run it all the wars, and
yeah.
they profit. In Christian countries, it's illegal to have usury,
Oh yeah,
compound interest. Canada was interest free. The banks gave interest free loans until 1974.
absolutely
Pierre
correct.
Elliott Trudeau's father, and
Yes,
that's when they took over. And ever since
yes.
then, the debt's been going up, up, up. So I don't blame Carney. I don't blame Trump. I know that there's people pulling strings, and they could even risk death if they don't do what they're told. So we've how to solve this problem. I hope that we can unravel all the mysteries and find a way to save our people, our man, our fellow man, Ukrainians and uh, Americans and Canadians. They all matter. All lives matter. All children matter.
I agree.
All
I
lives
agree.
matter.
I
N-
agree.
you And what we do, what you do, and what I do is based on love. Without love, we wouldn't be doing this.
I agree. 100%. It's like the fifth element.
Yes. Yep. It is. And I think that could be the only solution because I think they want us to fight back. I think they want us to revolt so they could, you know, crack down on martial law and just lock us down, I think that's what they desire because they're certainly poking us. They're putting things in our food that we don't agree to. They're, you know, pushing DEI programs in other countries with our money without consent, funding wars without our consent. Everything is without our consent. They're, and they're creating debt by doing this. Now,
Yes.
I hope that while you're there, that peace will happen and you can
It's part of my
celebrate
mission.
and
I'm
we can
trying
have
to help bring it about, honestly. And
Mhm.
I think that peace is something that's achieved through balance of power. The reason we don't have it is because there isn't a balance of power. Russia
No.
felt overconfident, extremely overconfident. They thought they would take the country in a couple of days, and it's not turning out the way that they anticipated. In fact, we've got weapons now that are better than some of the Americans, like the Flamingo long range rocket. Trump's trying to brag about giving us Tomahawk missiles. It sounds
Yep.
great, but the Flamingo outperforms that like
Mhm.
two times more. The distance and the warhead are exponentially greater than the Tomahawk missile, and they're made in country. I want to see Ukraine match the power balance of Russia because I think the war will stop diplomatically at that point.
Yes, I want diplomacy, to sit at the table. As far as I know, Putin has tried to make deals all along and they keep getting broke. And same with Palestine. They have a ceasefire and then Israel breaks the ceasefire.
We knew
Like,
they
oh,
were going to break the ceasefire. We
of
all
course
knew
we
they were
did.
going to break the ceasefire.
Yeah,
Like,
we knew.
there's no law. It's a lawless country.
Yeah,
You can't even break an embargo on the world's largest death camp.
yep. And they keep getting vetoed. Even the UN is constantly. I don't even know how many charges were made against Israel, and they keep getting vetoed and cleared by the U.S.
Yeah,
That's the UN is dysfunctional. When you
I
have
agree.
a little group of countries that have veto power
Yeah,
over what's right and what's wrong, and that's where Trump is has failed. And the UN needs to be shut down. A new UN would be great, where everyone is equal, all
right.
countries are equal, and all have an equal vote and we really are humanitarian cause, but it's not. It was a setup, all like WEF, uh, the WHO.
Yeah,
The WHO wants to be able to, dictate a vaccine if someone sneezes and force it on Canadians with no
yes.
no say whatsoever.
Can I speak to that? Because I have some
Sure.
awareness. I was a witness to Canada's probably, arguably, one of the most high profile double homicides in Canadian recent history. I was the guy that called 911 and then in the following morning did a check address on the Honey and Bernard Sherman residence when the Toronto police were pretending not to know what was happening. And the public didn't know yet, in fact. And I've been trying to prove my state of awareness to the public and to the police agencies that are supposedly investigating this since the occurrence. And there's public records that support my claims. They're just being redacted. And I tried to
That.
stop not only just their homicides, okay, but I
Mhm.
was aware and privy and aware of the future of COVID in 2017. And that's probably one of the most outrageous statements I'm going to ever. I've been repeating this statement too, though, but it sounds outrageous, but it's true that there were people in 2017 who advised the perpetrators of the Honey and Bernard Sherman homicides.
Mm-hmm.
They advised them of COVID yet to come. And those perpetrators had gained my trust because I tried to stay alive. And I was actually a displaced person in 2017. I lived in my truck and I was a carpenter. So I worked nearby their accommodations in Brampton
Mm-hmm.
at the courthouse addition. So I was doing concrete form work. I did the elevator shaft footings and a few other things in the Brampton's courthouse addition 2017. It was just up the street for where the perpetrators, had housing. And this is all already published. I declined to attend their murder, and I never intended to go. But I was going to be set up as the third victim. I was going to be staged and framed for their homicide. And I realized all this. And so I pretended to be willing to go until the very last minute when I declined. Obviously, I never intended. And thankfully, they left. And it's on my change.org petition / open Sherman records, that I went to work the next day and called again from my break from on my phone from my break at 9:45 in the morning, 9:47 in the morning. And I did a check address on the Sherman residence, following up on my 911 calls. So like to me, this speaks to again criminal negligence resulting in death.
Yeah.
Five 911 calls or more were made on two individuals, and then one check address. So that's six attempts on two individuals. 12 counts of criminal negligence resulting in death are what I believe the Toronto police are criminally guilty of. Because
Mhm.
their job, their duty is to dispatch to preserve life. Why didn't they dispatch? If they were dispatched and the perpetrators were arrested in the act, they would have divulged COVID-19 yet to come. And that was my intention too.
Yeah, I think God protected you on that one. I think God protects me too, to be
So I have
honest.
this survivor's guilt. I feel like I have survivor's guilt, bro, because I didn't
Yep.
do enough.
But I mean, it wasn't a mistake. It was intended. It was supposed to happen. And we're eternal, and they're still living. They were sacrificed. But yeah, their story has meaning, and you are a key to that story, a witness, and that's what's that's why everyone has a purpose. It's just finding out what that purpose is. um a lot of people are still talking about this couple,
I hope
and
so. Yeah.
yeah, it was like, what happened, like, where's the trial and the evidence. Yeah, that's why I think we're in very dark times, because dark things are allowed to happen at the highest places of power. And it's so nefarious. To me, it's like Georgia Guidestone. They've told us how many people they want left,
Yeah.
and then they destroyed it and then launched COVID. It was like the starting gun, of a race where they all agreed. And then all the masked countries that forced people to lock down and wear masks, they
Right.
were all in on it.
I think it's going to be called the Malthusian age. But
Yeah.
Malthusianism is not new. It's just been
No.
realized and manifesting. We
Yeah.
experienced the information age, the disinformation age. Now
Yep.
we're in Malthusianism. I think maybe I don't know. I hope not.
Well, I mean, biblically, good wins over evil. So I'm looking forward to that part. Then we can celebrate.
Well, yeah, I agree. John, what I don't recall the chapter or verse right now, but that the light will overcome darkness.
Well, I believe that. And, I'm glad to be on the right side because I really find these people soulless to be able to sacrifice people, children. I think that's so dark and
Yes,
inhumane
absolutely.
to say to okay a bomb being dropped in a hospital, or I
Oh,
just don't understand the absolute devastation of how many people will be devastated by that, connected to each of the victims, and it's
yes,
just it's like mass trauma based mind control garbage that
yes.
we're dealing with right now. And I'm not going to give up. I'm going to talk until they shut me up, and I'm going to continue to, you know, God basically brings people into my focus like you, because you came out of the blue a week ago, out of nowhere. I didn't know you, and I knew right away. I just knew, like, it's like this is how my shows happen all the time, and it's last minute, unplanned, and it just boom, because I just have such a strong faith, and I trust my gut. I think that my gut will never lie to us. Our brain will, our heart
Yeah,
will, but
maybe.
our gut will never. The heart is why I got married and divorced.
Right.
So it's a bad heart.
I can understand that.
Yeah,
Although the heart forms before the brain,
yeah, yeah.
so it's often
It has
relied
value.
upon. Like we physically rely on it more than the brain, I think. Maybe that's
I've
why.
seen a heart. I've seen a doctor unravel a heart. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
It was like a swirl. It was just so. It wasn't what I expected. I expected it to be like a solid, heart, but
Yeah,
it's not. It unwraps and it's like this long, loopy. It's like, wow, that's
yeah.
so amazing. The heart is amazing. So, do you have any plans to leave Ukraine, or are you staying there until it's over? Like, what are
Well,
your plans?
I feel like it would be wrong of me to leave um,
Yeah, I
like
understand that.
this, and I don't want to let my new friends and the people I care about down, um, because I've made commitments to supporting Ukraine
Mhm.
and civilians in particularly. But if I can speak to that a little bit, because I think that in this instance, the Ukrainian military, being that we're on the defense and we're preserving civilians being occupied, the Ukrainian military is probably one of the most ethical and humanitarian missions using force in the world right now. And it's unfortunate, but we have to do it. We have to match their weapons with our weapons in order to
Mhm.
preserve our lives. It's not ideal. It's far from ideal. And I think nobody wins in any war. It's just about who
No.
loses more. We're trying to see, we want to lose less than Russia.
Yeah.
They're trying to do this to us, but we can't lose because losing means we don't exist.
Yep.
And if this happens, who's next?
Well, I mean, I know about the corruption though, and like our Kirk Reese here been on my show about 5 times,
Kirk.
and he's Kirk. Oh
Yeah, I've
yes, yes,
chatted
of
with
course.
Kirk many times on Twitter
But yeah,
Spaces.
you know his story too. Um, so there's corruption everywhere,
Yes,
and I only hope that we can drain the swamp and just put good people there with ethics, and that will get rid of these problems before they accumulate, and then you've got bad person on each level of authority,
yes.
which is what we have right now, I believe.
In
And
many different power spheres, yes, we have a lot of corruption, and that's where corruption migrates. It's
oh
trying to
yeah,
occupy those locations because that's where the power centers are,
yeah,
and it's something that we have to stand up to at a grassroots level, because the grassroots foundations are really hard to assail by these power centers because we're so you know earthy grounded that that it's hard to take us out because we've got the right motivations and intentions, And
Mhm.
intentions, good intentions are unassailable. The truth
Yeah,
is unassailable. You know, that's what I think.
I have Ukraine colors here
Oh, nice, nice, good, great.
just for you
Chudovu means
because
miraculous.
we have no enemies. The Ukrainian people aren't our enemies. The Russian people aren't our enemies. They're
Yes,
victims of these high oligarch wars that just is profitable. I mean, this is insane. Profit over lives should never be allowed. The banking cartels need to be
totally.
stopped.
I agree. Yeah,
And then the wars will stop. If there's no profit in it, it wouldn't happen. And then we can flourish and we can release all the technology that's been suppressed.
totally.
Cars
Yeah,
that run on water. I mean, we could have a renaissance. It's being
yeah.
denied to us. Extended life, all sorts of cures. I mean, there's been cures for cancer forever, and they just won't allow it. They just want to keep fundraising, paying those 70,000 employees at the Cancer Society. It's
Trump's
just
got a
greed.
story about that. Trump's kid, was it Don Jr. or something? Didn't he scam a children's cancer charity? You know, and I don't even want to talk about the Trump family, honestly. But you know, we
Yeah.
have to incentivize goodwill. For
Yes.
us to build a better future, we got to stop incentivizing violence and incentivizing harm and incentivize goodwill.
Yes.
And we can do it. I think we can do it.
We can. We can, and we will. We will. I mean, no, well, even though we're talking about these bad things that are happening, they're just common knowledge to people that really care and have an open mind and can see what's happening. And because we're not enemies with our fellow man, Christians are not enemies with Muslims. That's a
No,
setup. It was a
no,
setup.
no. They worship the prophet of Jesus too. You know,
Yeah,
and I think that the Christians, we need to realize that we're all just trying to be like Christ. You know, he
yeah.
was the only true Christian.
There was only one God. There is only one God, and we're all worshiping the same God,
Yeah, yeah,
except for the Talmudic rabbinic Jews who worship Moloch and
yeah.
sacrifice babies
That's
and
that's the
fire.
thing. If you look at the protests in Toronto that we just experienced, for example, right? There was some violence I read about. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't see anything wrong with people peacefully protesting infanticide.
yeah. I don't have a problem.
If you protest infanticide, you deserve a recognition because there's too
Mhm.
much infanticide. You know,
Yeah,
and it's not Arabs that are doing it. It's not
yeah. I
Palestine.
I refuse to pick a side. That's what they want us to do. Either you're for us or you're with the terrorists. No, 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 no. You're the terrorist, Bush. You're the one that allowed people to die in Iraq for
Yeah,
nothing and destroyed that country. But they were a Christian. Egypt was a Christian country. Now it's a Muslim Brotherhood. You know, all these countries. Lebanon was a Christian country. Now it's they just ruined everything since Iran in 1953. All we've done, the CIA has just
regime change,
brought
prophets.
in
Yeah,
the worst people, but
yeah,
we're propping up the bad people.
yeah. Look at Guatemala. That's where we get the term banana republic from.
Yeah, yep. But we're not going to put it up with it anymore. We're not going to let it slide. We're not going to ignore it or not talk about it because we know about it, and knowing is the first step. You know, the second step is how do we resolve this and save our fellow man, because
Well,
that's
I think
what's
we
really important.
should start with
Is
awareness.
yeah, yep. But our goal is to end these wars and stop this profit and greed and death. And there's nothing wrong with the company doing well, but if they're putting poison in the food to save a couple of bucks,
Yeah,
that's inappropriate. That's
yeah,
criminal. It's do no harm right from the onset. If you have a good product, you'll do well, and you'll be able to sleep at night.
yeah.
That's natural. That's what human nature is. That's what we're naturally inclined to do. We want to succeed, but
I
we don't
agree.
want to harm people in order to do it.
Yeah,
You know?
we're inherently upwardly inclined as a
Yeah.
species.
I agree. I agree. And that's why you're there, because you do care. And you're seeing those eyes and those faces, and you know that these people didn't harm anybody to deserve this kind of situation. You
Totally.
know.
Yeah.
So you must talk to the military as well. How how do they feel? You know, do they feel like there's an end to this, and are they hopeful?
Well, it's hard to answer your question because the military is not one person. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't have, I'm not really connected to people in those upper echelons of the military to even ask. But what from the military personnel that I have worked with, um, and referring to that one young lady that I mentioned earlier, her family is in Luhansk. She wants them to be able to travel, not be under this oppression of Russian occupation, because right now there's a vast amount of children being kidnapped by Russia and sent to other parts of the Russian Federation for
Hmm.
re-education training and indoctrination. And there's been
Really?
incidents of, yes, and there's been systemic reporting of people being tortured in occupied Ukraine by Russia. Okay, and I actually have some contacts who've admitted to me that they've served for Russia, and it's horrifying to see and to read about Canadians going to serve in Russia and bragging about having freedom to return to Canada. Just like the IDF soldiers, they come back to
Yes.
Canada, brag about it. It's the
Yes.
same, and we see with Trump, with bad actors like Trump, they're the nexus of this, what I call the real axis of evil, because Israel and Russia both benefit from this war in Ukraine. If
Hmm.
parts of Israeli components have been found in Russian weapons, okay, American for sure, American components are found in Russian weapons. It's very strange, isn't it?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but that's the dichotomy that we live in. It's the ironic dichotomous world of harm and disingenuousness that we see in our world. And Israel didn't really help Ukraine, in my opinion. They've done some humanitarian help, but it seems to me that they don't want to, all the attention to go to Ukraine. They've drawn the attention towards themselves with October 7th, which they knew about. Egypt advised them of October 7th 3 days in advance. Who
Mm.
benefits? Cui bono is a word that we use in a phrase that we use in Italian. Who benefits from October 7th? Russia benefited. Benjamin Netanyahu benefited.
Yeah.
They knew about October 7th. It's keeping Netanyahu in power. You know,
Yep.
it drew resources away from Ukraine. It's a
Yeah.
simple solution. It's Occam's razor to me. That there are, you know, veiled actors, bad actors.
So, is there a building where you help with food and with your charitable work?
I actually am
And
in a
then,
secret location. I was in Kharkiv for most of my time in Ukraine, and my what I call the global command headquarters of PFI Ukraine was based in Kharkiv, large city,
mhm, mhm.
and I love it there. We were based in Saltivka, but now I've been subjected to some more additional threats from others abroad, Americans and other actors.
Really?
So I've decided to find a more secure center of operations, and I'm in a secure secret location in central Ukraine right now. That
Yeah, and I don't want to endanger your life either.
You're not, thanks, because I'm far from the front, but I feel a lot safer and more comfortable here. I go fishing. The nature is, I love nature, so I'm out here all the time. But
Mhm.
the environment is in Ukraine. The environment is a lot more pristine, and there's a lot of sense of sustainability in Ukraine compared to, I think, Russia. Like, if we look at the history of the Soviet Union, they eliminated Asia's largest inland sea. Right, it
Mm.
became a toxic waste dump, the Aral Sea. Have you heard of that?
No, that's
It
terrible.
was an inland sea during the Soviet Union. They eliminated, and during this war, they've caused so much pollution. They've polluted the Black Sea with two tankers. Multiple tankers around the world have been, derelict and crashed and caused oil spills. So we're not just fighting terrorists here in Ukraine. We're fighting ecocide. Look at what they did to the Novakakovka Dam.
Hmm.
That was an ecological disaster and a humanitarian disaster, all in one. I
I've
think that
watched.
what we're doing here in Ukraine is the largest upcycling. It's like the largest upcycling campaign because we're using 50 to $400-500 drones to take out multi-million-dollar killing machines
Hmm.
that often have, hazardous components, and it's we're recycling those components to preserve our lives. It's like an upcycling campaign, if you think
Mm.
about it. Yeah, but yeah,
I've watched some of your videos, and it just seems like Toronto. The streets are clean, and it just seems normal. You know what I mean? It's just we're getting such a twisted view. Our media is just so detrimental to our what's real and what's fake. They're showing pictures from other years and other events, just to for their stories. We're getting lied to so much. It's terrible.
yeah.
I
I
don't
can give
have
you a good
cable.
reference. I can give you a good reference of the censorship that I've been experiencing. Okay, the
Hmm.
only CP24 report regarding my 911 calls, it's a link you can find on Google, but once you click on their link, there's no video anymore. If you Google the keywords call not linked 911 Shermans in any order, those keywords, calls not linked or call not linked 911 Shermans, there is or was an article from CP24 about my calls, but it's been taken down. And the Toronto police asked me one of the strangest questions. The first time I gave my information to the Toronto police, one of the first questions they asked me was how much rent was I paying the Shermans?
What?
Yeah,
Whoa! Wow!
very
Yeah, they
strange.
just buried that story, though, eh? The Shermans.
It's not going
That's it.
away. We've got
It's.
to keep this in the public's eye, you know,
Hmm.
because it really speaks to a lot of other issues, and it, bringing this to the public eye will preserve my demise. I think we'll get the perpetrators arrested, and we'll expose COVID's tangential conspiracies. And that's what
I
I
think
tried
the
to do when I
problem is.
called 911.
I think the problem is when we start solving these cases, it's going to lead upwards, like with Kirk. It goes went right up to Trudeau. So I think that's why they get shut down, because
Yeah.
of how high up it goes. And with
Well,
the Shermans.
other whistleblowers had to attend his space, and there's a lot of interesting stories, and they're all
Mhm.
fairly
Yep.
believable. It's not like people are whistleblowing things that are unbelievable that I
Yeah.
actually tend to believe in, like UFOs and you know dimensional anomalies. I think those things are plausible too, but nobody that attends Kirk's space is saying crazy shit like that. It's
Yeah.
all plausible,
They don't
believable.
benefit. There's no
Yeah,
benefit in them just making it up.
right. And there's no benefit for us to make this shit up. Like
No.
we're making any money, you know. But there are whistleblowers who have reported really unbelievable things like UFOs. Bob Lazar, for example, he doesn't
Yep.
make money. He was trying to come forward about what he saw at Area 51, but he believes
Mhm.
there's UFOs because he saw them at the, and his story remains consistent. So speaking to other whistleblowers of those proportions, there's truth in them too. Our universe is so diverse. Everything's moving at all the time. But when we
Mhm.
perceive things, they look stationary.
Yep.
What's the reason for people making up our stories? I don't find any benefit. In fact, my life was threatened. People threatened to kill me for what I've been talking about. So I mean, I'm not trying to.
Yep.
I just want to stay alive, honestly. Like at least at least let me get my story out so I can remain alive. But
Remain
when people
alive
say to me
and
that
see it. Yeah, and watch and observe the restoration of our, you know,
yeah,
fellow man.
that's important, of course, yeah, we have to do something about the situation.
Yep,
Being idle is a lack of a solution. It's doesn't
it is.
do anything. Doesn't help.
Yeah, not at all. So, is there anything you wanted to touch on about your experience in Ukraine, or any experiences that you wanted people to understand and to know?
Um, I think that it's not difficult to volunteer in crises areas like Ukraine, um,
Hmm.
because first it requires a degree of motivation that most people I don't think have, and but that doesn't mean it's impossible. We just have to find and realize the resources required to achieve these tasks and to achieve our desires. They're not out of our arm's reach or length and grasp, because we've got the most dynamic machine in the known universe, this physical
Oh
body,
yeah. Oh
and
yes.
it can do one amazing things that people don't often think they can do. And I mean, I've seen things that are hard to believe that have been performed, and I've actually been surprised at my own capacity. I actually think I'm somewhat disabled, in fact, in some ways, because I've got some hindrances. But we balance out somehow our
Hmm.
our our what our drawback, our failings. We try to balance out our failings with our successes and wins. And it's something I try to do. I try to develop my existing skills and build on what I know works, and constantly learn from others and my experiences. And I think that people can achieve their goals of sustainability and peace, and for themselves and for our world. We just need to be of the right intention, and firstly and foremost, the right intention, and find the energy. And there's an abundance of energy. It's not We live in a theater of contrived scarcity, but I believe there is abundance. It's just
Yep.
not entirely accessible to us right now,
Hmm.
you know, because of
Yeah.
governments and
Yeah, and like
those.
all the food, like tomatoes, might have 50 seeds in them, and each of those are another plant, which will give you another 50 tomatoes.
Yeah,
Or, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like all plants are like that. So it was made for abundance. You
yeah,
take one cucumber and you've got another 32 cucumber plants, and each of those plants gives you 30, 35 more cucumbers. So, I mean, it's just impossible to think that there's not enough food.
yeah,
That's not possible because everyone on the planet could fit in Australia with an acre of land,
yeah,
and complete, yeah, like the whole population could fit there. So there's not overpopulation. That is just the view of the criminals that have already taken all the gold. Canada sold all the gold. So the Rothschilds have it all. They have all the gold under the 9/11. All that gold was missing. Do you think it really melted? No. They obviously took it. That was the biggest heist and crime of the century.
yeah,
And sure enough, it was a Zionist Jew that insured it for specifically for planes, and then doubled his taking. So they've got the money already. They don't need money. Now they just want to get rid of people because they have the technology. And we're just pawns in their little game, and they are unfit to govern. They're unfit to have any kind of power, and all their wealth and all their fancy cars and suits is all illegitimate money. It's stolen wealth. It's not in it. They didn't work for it. They didn't earn it. They stole it. They're scumbags. They're not elites. They're degenerates. And they have too much power. And I hope that we have leaders that will come forward with the courage to say no more, like Gaddafi. Gaddafi said no more, and they killed him. But that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Leaders like that are willing to sacrifice. And but the whole world would turn against anyone trying to free their own country.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, our health is the last frontier of
Yeah.
exploitation, and
Yeah.
then it's being exploited as we um, learn about it,
Yeah.
and that's what we're experiencing with COVID and
Yeah.
current current situations. So
Yeah. They're killing cows now with this injection, the Bovaer
well,
injection. The cows are dying. Yeah, they want to get rid of the meat. Canada approved lab grown meat, and they're
I read
just slipping it through the cracks into our grocery stores, make it look like meat. It's like such a sick, demented oligarchy. I mean, they're not even hiding their evil anymore. You know, and Carney with his $78 billion deficit, and no one's life gets better over it. No one's life is going to improve. He's going to steal Canada pension, and then he's going to flood in a million immigrants who have nothing in common with us.
Well,
I
that's
don't
why
have
I
anything.
feel like I feel like I'm an immigrant too. My parents were from Europe and immigrated to Canada
Hmm?
because of war, and I'm Canadian by birth, but I feel like I'm returning to my European roots being here, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
but the European settlers helped to build this country and make it a beautiful place. The
including
Europe,
Ukraine.
the settlers weren't bad. The settlers weren't bad at all. It was the governments, the Britain government and the French government. That's where the evil comes from. Like France pillaged Haiti. It was a beautiful, rich country, and they made them buy out their freedom. And it took 100 years, and they pillaged that country. It's like a dump site now, and it used to be beautiful. And this is France. This is what France in Africa as well. And here they get they're stealing from the Western provinces with their, equalization. Quebec is just cleaning up. This is France. This is the Laurentian elites. They're not good people, and they're not fit to have any kind of power or say in the well-being of Canadians. You know, and these immigrants will not conform to Canadian values. They bring their own garbage, their way of thinking. Like going to the bathroom on the beach is okay for them. This is not something we do here. So there's incompatibility being forced upon us. And, and the numbers are going to basically end who we are, because they are, Islam is very aggressive. They want to take over. So they'll smile at you and be friendly and, be your buddy until they have the numbers, and then they get into power. They will vote. They will vote liberal. Liberals will always be in power because of these people, because they're giving them like 3 grand each. They're getting
Well,
lots of money.
I did work in the Elections Canada democratic function of Canadian
Hmm.
electoral function, and at federal, provincial, and municipal levels of
Oh yeah.
government, not government, but the election process.
Hmm.
And so democracy is important to me,
Yeah.
um, as well as human um, wellness. But I think that what problem we really face, that's kind of the elephant in the room, economically, politically, in many different ways, is there is too much tax havenry going
Hmm.
on, and because of
Yep.
tax havenry, we don't donate our taxes to the government, which probably is not a good idea anyway. Honestly, we need to
No.
donate. People need to donate to charities and nonprofits that are making a direct impact. Because what we do in the charitable sector is we bridge the gap between the private sector and the government, which the government always fails. The government will
Oh yeah.
always fail and
Yeah.
misuse our money. It's
Yeah.
called malfeasance. The
Every
government,
time.
malfeasance is implied with the government,
Mhm.
with any government, most governments.
But the
Malfeasance is the norm.
but
But
the flaw of democracy is mob rule. And if you're flooding in, Islam, you're going to have an Islamic country because they have way more kids than we do. It's only going to take 10 years and they're going to take over, and democracy allows them to do that. So we're going to have Sharia law unless something is changed,
well,
you
I
know.
think that's a kind of extremism too. That we should not have to, that it shouldn't. We should have some tolerance, but
I
like
do.
mass
I do.
prayer, yeah, but mass
I'm
prayers in the middle of downtown avenues is going to obstruct traffic. It's like
The thing is
economic
they don't
disturbance.
do that. They don't do that in their own country. And
Yeah.
if Christians did it, they would be killed for that in their country. So they
Yes.
know this. They understand that. And Europe is burning to the ground. UK is burning to the ground because of the same immigration policy. So it's only a matter of time before we get overwhelmed here. They're overwhelming us in debt so that our children's children have no future right now. So we're in a very bad situation, and it makes me sad because I was born into a beautiful country. I mean, the trees and the just everything. There was a cherry tree on the street, like the you could walk on the sidewalk, and between the road and the sidewalk was a tree. It was a cherry tree, and it was full of cherries, and they were big and fat and dark, and sweet and perfect. Sun warmed. This was growing up. They don't have cherry trees anymore.
Yeah.
Now, so that sort of thing is what's natural to me, to have abundance, to
Yeah.
grow apple trees, have apple trees and cherry trees. If someone's hungry, they could just grab an apple. You don't have to pay anything, it's free. This is how mankind really, really is on the inside. If we're allowed to flourish, this is who we are. We are good people. We love to do good things for others.
Yeah.
All we're experiencing now is not natural. It is social engineered, and it's all based on greed and profit and all the things that we are not naturally. So you're acting on your natural you, wanting to help others. That's a natural thing for us. If someone is, laying on the ground, we'll say, "Do you need help? Are you okay?" That's what our natural thing is. I mean, Toronto now or Chicago, they'll just walk past you because they've been numbed. They've been hurt and used, and they have no more trust.
Yeah.
So
You're
it's
right.
all unnatural right now.
I can tell you a couple stories of where I did that exactly that. I got off the bus at Finch and Weston going to work, and I heard a shot somewhere. And an elderly man fell down, and the guy got hit in his arm by a stray bullet. But it was really quiet. The shot was really, it could have been a hammer. I didn't know what was going on. I just got off the bus, all right,
Mm,
and so I had my belt, and I applied my belt as a tourniquet on this elderly man's arm at Finch and Weston, just going to work. I lost my job that day, honestly, because I was late. But at least I helped save a life. And there was another instance when I was coming home from visiting my girlfriend at the Lakeshore area, and I approached the bus stop. It was snowing. You would not have seen this body at the intersection that I found a human body at an intersection one time coming home from visiting my girlfriend. And the man
wow.
must have, I don't know what happened, but I called the ambulance, and I've saved at least two lives in Canada, I believe, and so I've tried to do my part. When we encounter these crises scenarios,
Hmm.
it's crucial for us to act in timely manner because
Yeah.
life and death is very, it's it's I don't know, it's hard to say, because we can easily transition from one to the other.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But I'm glad I met you. You know, I believe in destiny, fate, and my faith is very strong. And I hope that if there's anything new, good news or bad news, it doesn't really matter. That you'll come to me and we'll update, the my followers and just keep everyone updated on the situation in Ukraine. Can I get a tour of your apartment now?
oh, for sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Let's do it.
Uh, this is our laboratory current setup, and it's probably the first time I'm making such a video presentation because of the kind of like you could possibly determine my location by seeing the
Oh,
the, the accommodations or lack thereof that I have here. So it's kind
so
of
we'll have to
just
be careful.
this is my first set of 3D printers. This is a low wattage ANET
Oh wow.
A8. This is a Mingda Magician Max 3D printer, and so I just added some bricks, Adobe bricks and sand to this wall because we heat with wood, right? So there's a fireplace here, and I've just added all this sand, built up mass to the heater, right? Sand and steel, and I cook here. This is a bucket of hot water that heats up from the fireplace, and I've added a little pump, so I've got my own showering solution now. This is where I shower. It's not what it used to be over in Toronto, where I was living in
I
a tent,
bet.
or I
Yeah.
used to have a house when I had two houses. By the way, sorry, I sold my houses. I sold before the real estate market inflated. I sold my two assets, and I
Smart.
thought it was yeah. I thought it was no, it wasn't smart because now they're worth
No.
500. They're worth
Yeah,
five
you're right. You're
two.
right.
But if I had, I would be up by a couple 100,000. Um, but it's not as bad as I had it in when I was displaced in Toronto. So I'm thankful for that because I have a donor who's provided me the roof over my head for my laboratory. That I'm very appreciative for the contributions that we've received from my organization. And so I do my 3D printing in that room as well as the next room, and I do the soldering. This is my soldering station where I
Hmm.
make power banks from recycled Tesla batteries. And this is my own design of a system that turns any type of 21700 cell into a power bank. And
Hmm.
I buy these parts really inexpensively. The 3D printed enclosure is really inexpensive to produce. It costs about $10 to make one.
Hmm.
And I call them rugged AF or ugly AF even because they're not that pretty looking, but they work. Um, and so I have a bunch of flags too that were custom produced here. The Italian flag.
Oh yeah.
This is the flag of Circassia, who were an ancient
Hmm.
people genocided by
Yes.
Imperial Muscovy in the 1800s.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
perfect. And the flag of Odessa is here. I've
Wow.
got a bunch of what we call chevrons, which are like patches, unit patches.
Hmm.
These are the ones I can show you. Some of these I actually worked with. Some of them were just gifts. As well as these patches here. Now, one of them I cannot show you, so I'll have to put that aside. Where is it?
So if I ever become a billionaire, I was thinking of being Batman, and I was wondering if you'd like to be Robin.
That is the
Oh, look
Intelligence
at that.
Services of Ukraine patch.
Huh.
This one is the most recently received patch that I received from the Italian Canadian, the Italian Ukrainian unit.
Hmm.
This was the assault battalion when I first transitioned from the uh, Foreign Legion to the Ukrainian battalion. This is the first assault battalion in the 92nd Brigade,
Hmm.
which I served in Yunakivka and Kharkiv Oblast. This is the patch for Kharkiv. This is a 3D printing group that I was partnered with. We have my patch here, and that's the PFI patch. I'm a graphic designer too, so my businesses are solely, marketed by myself, and I do all the graphic design too.
Well, I
So
haven't talked about it yet, but we're both musicians, so I wanted to know what instrument you play.
I played the guitar, and I
Ah,
learned to play the piano as a child, but I don't practice it enough. This is the flag of Frosinone, my father's province. The lighting
oh,
is poor, but it
no, I
says
can see it. Yeah.
the fiercest in fighting, and it's got the lion rampant,
Mm-hmm.
um, and as well as the flag of Creevy Reek, which is hard to distinguish. Here's my off-grid solution. Set up outside, I've got solar panels, and I've got an inverter here with a 5-volt router connected to a charge controller, and it basically made an uninterruptible power supply for my Wi-Fi. So when the power goes out, which it could any minute, we never know, because there are rolling blackouts, the internet won't go out. We'll be able to continue this conference. And but going back to the musicians, yeah, I'm familiar with the guitar right now, even though I hadn't played for years. Because when I was in the propane leak explosion in Toronto, the surgery was incomplete. Sunnybrook failed to complete my surgery, in fact.
Hmm.
And oh, 1 second,
Oh, there's my guitar right back there,
I've seen it. Yeah,
and there's my
acoustic,
music
right?
award. My music award right behind me there. Uh, there.
Oh, you got an award. What for? What? What was it?
Did instrumental. The
Nice.
song actually playing in the background here.
That's yours.
That's my song. Yep.
Awesome. I enjoy it. It's melodic. It's
It's in
tranquil.
432 hertz, so it's meant to heal.
Perfect.
1950 they changed it to 440, so it couldn't benefit us. They also took the bells away because they also aligned our chakras and allowed us to function perfectly. So they didn't want us to function perfectly, but all the little secrets are coming out, and the ins and outs. And you're a part of that. I'm a part of that. And we're together. We're on the right side of history, and we work with courage and love. I think my faith gives me a lot of courage, but I don't want to have courage. I want to be able to grow and build, and I don't want to fight. I don't think it's necessary. I think we can use diplomacy. We just need clear heads to sit at the tables and, make peace. It's not that hard. You know, it's not hard to find our differences and just act like adults and realize that our little emotional outbursts bursts like Doug Ford pouring out alcohol.
Yeah.
These little things show incompetence and a lack of inability to be humble
Oh,
and
totally.
and reach out and find a way. There's always an easy path. To me, it's all easily fixed. Even our education can be fixed easily.
For sure.
I want kids to graduate high school with apprenticeships, already
Oh,
knowing what they love and doing what they love. If it's electricians or 3D printing or computer, whatever it might be, they should already know and be ready for it by the time they graduate. And we could do that. We just have to take our education back from the Rockefeller cartel. They just want slaves. They want worker bees. They don't want creators and innovators and cures. They don't want cures or cars that run on water.
disruptors.
Yeah, they just. But what I believe, I really feel it in my core, is that all of this is going to end, and we're going to be restored, and it's just going to go uphill at that point.
Amen.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your story, and if there's any updates, I want to have you back on the show, and just to keep everyone informed on what it's like on the ground in Ukraine. And I wish you safety and peace and success and continued saving lives as God has put that in your path, finding bodies on Toronto in snowbanks. But I mean, that's your fate, that's your destiny, and I appreciate you so much. And thank you so much for coming on the Truth Table and being a part of season 2. And I will send you links and everything to the different uh, Rumble, and I'll send that to you on X. And any final words you want to leave to my friends before we go?
Just that humanity is upwardly inclined, and we need to preserve what we have because the earth is intended to be paradise, and we need to maintain this paradise if we want it to be one. Because there's a lot of threats to it, and as long as we have something to preserve, there will be some form of threat. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, I for one have come to realize that we have to be armed sometimes to protect what we
Yeah.
want to preserve, and that could be our lives, and that could be other people's lives,
Hmm.
or the environment, for example.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Santanato. Is
Santanato,
it
yes.
Santanato?
Yeah.
Is that Italian? No, not Italian, right?
I'm
Is it
Italian,
Italian?
and my mother is Scottish, French, British.
Well, thank you again for coming on the show, and thank you everyone at home for watching. Please share, like, support. If you know anyone from Ukraine, share this with them, and get in touch with JP on X, and join our spaces and our conversations. And look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for joining us on the Truth Table.